Okay, so let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Awesome. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Omolola Alfred. I am a team lead in Power Platform and Robotic Process Automation at Signal Alliance Consulting. I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in the business application ecosystem, and I advocate for digital transformation. First, I'd like to say thank you to all the organizers of this bootcamp. I also like to say thank you to the speaker, the person who's singer, the person who spoke before me, because what we'll be looking at today is a practical session in Copilot for Power Automate. So we'll be building together, would look at what Copilot is, would look at what you can do with Copilot, would look at limitation of Copilot. We'll have a demo, which is a practical session where all of us would build something together. And what we'll be building together is very similar to what Singa just finished showing us, but we'll be doing that with Power Automate. So we'll be building a staff request. We'll tell the generative AI in Power Automate, which is called Copilot, to build us a very simple request flow. All right. And after then, we're going to take questions if you have any questions at all. I also have the resource already pinned in this demo kit, which I can share with the organizers, and I can also share with us once I am done. All right, so let's just dive into it. So what is Copilot in Power Automate? Copilot is one of like the buzzwords that we've been hearing in the Microsoft space nowadays, right? But Copilot is basically just AI inside of Power Automate. So mostly when developers are developing, so one of the things that Singat said that I love is that if you are a developer, right, you're a Power Platform developer, you're not less of a developer. All of us are developers, okay? So when you are developing in Power Automate or in Power Apps, at times you probably get to a point and you don't know the next thing to do. You most likely leave this Power Platform studio, whether it's Power Apps or Power Automate, you leave the studio, then you go into your browser and you search for answers. So having an AI inside of the studio helps us, is like an assistant when you're building. That's basically what Copilot is. So today we are looking at the Copilot inside of Power Automate. So it's basically like an assistant, right? You want to add a connector, you don't know what to add, you can easily ask the AI assistant and it will just help you out, okay? So advantages of Copilot. So I'm trying to be fast so that we can just quickly build something very practical. You'll see how we'll do the magic all together. All right. So one of the advantages that I've listed here that Copilot has is, number one, it helps you to build faster flows, right? So even though I am a pro developer and I know exactly what I want to build, instead of building one by one and bringing all the connectors one by one, if you have a prompt, you know what you want to do, and you type it inside of the Copilot, because Copilot is like message. So you're talking to the AI and it's replying you, right? It's doing what you want it to do for you. So you just tell it what you want it to do, and it just comes up with the flow structure, right? So it helps you to build flows faster. Another thing or another advantage that we have in Copilot is that it helps you to edit existing flows. So I want to quickly ask a question just to ensure that we are together. So if you know that you've been building flows before, just put in the chat box, say, I have been building flows, I've been building flows. You know what the Power Automate looks like, just so that when we are doing the demo, I know my audience, I know who I'm talking to, so that I will not over-explain something. So if you have been building flows, just put in the chat box, I have been building flows, I have been building flows. If you're new to the Power Platform ecosystem, you've never built a flow before, but you're willing to learn, that's why you have joined this bootcamp, just put in there, I'm new to Power Platform. All right. If you have been building flows, say I've been building flows. If you're new, say I am new to Power Platform. All right. So now, for instance, let's assume that you are a developer, right? And you have been developing for a while, but you leave the organization that you're working for, you decide to join another organization. There might be flows, there might be apps, there might be things that have been built in that organization, and you're just joining. One of the beauty of Copilot is that you can ask Copilot, what is this flow about? It can explain to you an existing flow. Right? So in case that flow, when it was built, there was no documentation for it. You're just new. You don't know what the flow is talking about. You don't know what it's doing. So instead of you to spend time, a lot of time trying to understand what that flow is doing, the beauty of Copilot is you can just tell Copilot, please explain this process to me. It will explain to you what the flow is all about, some of the connectors that is being used, and all of that. And also, if you have questions about Power Automate, the Copilot inside of Power Automate would answer those questions for you. So instead of you to go to the documentation that we have for Microsoft, for the Microsoft documentation that we have for Power Automate, Copilot can, inside of your studio, you don't need to leave your studio at all. Inside of your studio, Copilot can answer those questions that you would want to go and read in the Microsoft documentation. Copilot would answer them for you. Does Copilot have limitation? We are going to see that once we start building. Copilot does have limitation. There are some things that Copilot cannot do. So this is what we are looking at. We are looking at Copilot in Power Automate, and I've explained that Copilot is our assistant, our AI, artificial intelligence assistant inside of Power Automate. And so before we go into questions, right, I am going to just stop this and we will quickly dive into, so let me just share the screen where we will be building together. So let me see if we see the people that I have been talking to. 1 minute. Okay. So I can see that some people said, I've been building flows. So I see that Mohammed is new to Power Automate. Okay, that's fine. So we're about to build together now, and we will be building, a flow together. Okay, so this is it. This is my Power Automate Studio. And when you come to the Power Automate Studio, you come to Home. This is what you see. Let's automate something. Right? What should it do? And this place here is actually where you type in what you want to do. So right now, if I type in, I am already using the Copilot, right? So it's saying, get started by selecting an example, describing your own automation idea. So if you come here, you can select any of these. However, if what you want to do is not from this one, you can just type, and I'm going to type. So what we want to do is we want to build a form, just a simple Microsoft form where so the form will be like an interface. So what Singat has showed us is us using Power Apps as the interface. So everything that Singat showed us, the Power Platform, so that was us using Power Platform as the interface to make all our requests. But what we want to do now is we'll just use forms, Microsoft Form, to Microsoft Form is going to be our interface, and that's where we are going to put our request. Then Power Automate will pick that request from Microsoft Form, and it will send that data to the people that we want to approve those requests. All right. So what we want to tell Copilot here is we want Copilot to quickly build us a flow. So Mohammed said he's new to flows. So while you're learning, one of the beautiful things that you can learn is learn how to or familiarize yourself with the Power Automate Copilot Studio. So yes, for people that have also been building, you might want to learn Copilot Studio so that you can build much faster. So we want to say, so I want to send form response for approval. I already have it here, right? So I can just say send form responses for approval. and I'll click on generate. Now, when you click on generate, first, it will show you what it's about to build for you. All right. So this is like a preview. So it's saying, look at it. It says suggested flow. So this is the suggested flow. Number one, when we are building Power Automate flows always have three major things. Number one is the trigger, number two, the action, and number three is the connectors, right? So we have said we want to build a flow that is coming from where? A flow that is coming from Microsoft Forms, all right? So the first trigger here is when a response is submitted, so that when anybody submits a Microsoft form response, that particular form that we are creating, the flow is going to be triggered, right? So in Power Automate, we can only have one trigger and several actions, all right? And that is what AI has generated for us here. So it has generated the Microsoft form trigger, and we have several actions. So let us review together. What are these actions doing? The first one is get response details. So when a form is submitted, all the response details, all those requests that you're requesting for, imagine if you want to maybe go for leave, just like Singat told us, you want to go for leave and you submit a request through the Microsoft form. What this particular connector, what this particular step, this action is going to do is going to extract all the response details. Then this one is going to start and wait for approval. Then this is now a condition. So this condition is going to be if your request was approved, maybe send you an email that, hi Singat, hi Mohammed, hi Lola, hi Hiba, your leave has been approved. If it was rejected, this is what we are going to have, right? So if you're fine with this, you can tell Power Automate you can select next, meaning go ahead and build this. However, another thing is, it's possible that you want to build, for people that have been building Power Automate flows before, it is very possible that you want to build a very this is just a simple flow, right? It's possible that you want to build a very complex flow. What you can do, you can say show a different suggestion. It shows you a different suggestion. You can say next, even though you want to build a very complex flow, if you say next and you create it, you can still use, once you enter your studio proper, you can still use Power Automate to edit and to add more connector, right? And one of the beautiful things is that you don't need to add connectors one by one, right? That might be slow. You can tell Power Automate, you can tell Copilot to add you like 5 steps. Tell it the steps it should add. It will just add those steps instead of you to go and add those steps one by one. And that's one of the magic and beauty that Copilot actually brings into the Power Automate Studio. All right. So now, in your case, it's possible that this you've not authenticated this connector. So you go ahead and authenticate it, right? So here, you can add a new connection and you will connect to the account that you have used to sign in. And this has already been done. And I will just go ahead and create flow. Now, if you've been creating Power Automate flows before, you would see that the studio, the interface here is very different from what we used to have, right? If you want to use this Copilot, this is the interface that you must use. If you're not interested in using Copilot, you can come here and turn off the new designer. It will take you to the old one, but that old one does not have the Copilot feature in it, right? So you would not be able to use this beautiful Copilot feature. Okay. So another thing is to explain this studio. I'm just going to quickly explain what this studio is all about. Right here, this one is to zoom in, right? So let's assume that I want to say I have many steps here and I want to zoom into maybe like 4 or 3. If you click on the plus icon here, you can zoom in, right? If you click on this minus, you can zoom out. But if you want to just have everything. You want to fit to screen, right? You select this, it fits to screen. So let's assume that, for instance, maybe your flow is somewhere, because you can see that I can actually move these flows. This is somewhere. I can just decide to fit to screen. Everything will come back. Then this fourth one is to search for workflow action, right? So if you select this, look at all your steps here. You'll be able to see all your steps. And if you click on this, right, you will see it will bring you back here, okay? So this one is like a map. It's like a toggle mini map. All right, it tells you. So this this particular one is actually useful when you have lots of flows, right? And you're trying to maybe position. So imagine if you have like some parallel branches. That's for people that have been building Power Automate flow. If I say parallel branches, you understand what I'm trying to say. So parallel branches, that's if you have flows that are standing side by side and it's so long. This mini map helps you to locate and to find. Can you see? You can use it to easily move, right? So this new studio is not difficult at all. It's simple to use. But now we want to quickly go ahead and work with what we have. So now Power Automate, the AI in Power Automate, which is Copilot, has quickly helped us to generate all of this. Now it is left for us to attach the particular form. What do I mean? So we have said when a new response is submitted, so we need to select that particular form. That means that you have to have gone to, let me show us, your Office 365 for people that are new. You have to have gone to your Office 365 and select form and create your form. But for the sake of this demo, I've already created the form. So if we just come here, I have all the forms here. These are some of my forms that I've created, okay? So staff request form is the one we want to use. So you create your form. Once you create your form, you would see your form here. So if you create your form with this particular account, you're also signed into this account. So once you select your connector, your form connector, what is going to happen is that your form connector, and you connect to this account, right? You saw when we did connection, we connected to the account. You'll be able to see all the forms that you have created, right, under that account. So staff request. So if you don't have a form already, just come into Microsoft Forms here and click on new form, right? You'll be able to spin up your own form. You quickly create your own form, give it a name, add all the fields that you want to have, and you have your form, right? So you'll be able to spin up your own form. So I've selected the staff request form, right? You can see it here, form ID, my staff request form, done. So the next one is get response. So it's asking, where should it get response from? We wanted to get response from the staff request, okay? So response ID. Now, I told us that when we start building, I'm going to tell us about the limitations. So one of the limitations that we have is Copilot right now, because Microsoft is still working on the Copilot to make it better for us. So Copilot right now does not know that, say it wants to write an expression. Expression is like you writing in JSON, you writing in some simple code format, basically, for people that are new to programming, new to Power Automate. So you want to write expressions. Copilot does not know that it has to go to the expression bar here. It will just put it. So you need to put dynamic content here. But what Copilot will do, it will just put expressions where dynamic content should be. It's not yet smart enough to know that expressions should not be here, and that's why we have this here. All right, so I'm going to just clear this away, and I would select dynamic content. So dynamic contents are they are extracts from connectors. So we have connectors here, right? So dynamic contents are values from connectors, okay? So, and by dynamic, it means that it can change. And I'm going to show us some better examples that will explain dynamic content for people that are new to Power Automate Studio. All right, so I'm going to select the response ID. So what I'm just showing us here is that even though Copilot would spin up all of this for you, Of course, it is AI, but there are things that you still need to do. All right, there are things that you still need to do. You need to still add all of this to it. Copilot does not know the form you want to use and all of that. So you need to do all of this yourself. Okay, so I've added the form. I've added the details that I want. So this is get response details. So I'm adding what I want to get from this particular response that I've submitted, right? I want to get the form ID, which is the name of the form. I want to get that form request ID. And I did not type it myself. I just selected a dynamic content coming from this form. The next thing is my start and wait for approval. So if I select start and wait for approval, it's going to ask me the approval type. So what is the type of approval that I want to use? So I can choose, so there are different approval types when you're using start and wait for approval. There is everyone must approve. There's forced to respond. There's wait for all responses, and there's wait for one response. So the one we are using today is forced to respond, meaning that let's assume that you have created a form, right? And you want that anytime you fill this form, you want it to go to maybe you only have one person to approve. You don't need to say everyone must approve because you have just one person to approve the form. So you just need to say first to respond. All right. You have just one person to approve that form. So we are going to just use first to respond. And once you select first to respond here, it will generate all the other fields that you need to fill. All right. Awesome. So to select all the other fields that you need to fill here. So one of them is, now our approval type is first to respond. So you need to create a title for the approval. So this title that you're creating for the approval is like your email subject. When an email comes in, it comes with a subject. So when your approval, once you fill that form and it goes to the person that ought to approve, maybe your supervisor, your professor, anybody that needs to approve it, the first thing they are going to see is the subject of that approval, right? Just like email subject. So we are going to say staff, let's say staff request approval, staff approval requests. All right. So remember that we're looking at Copilot for Power Automate. The beauty of all of this is still that when if you're to do all of this yourself, it's going to take you, some minutes putting all of this together. But Copilot has already helped you to limit the time that you would have used. All right. So first to respond, this is the title, that's the subject you are going to see. Then the next thing is, who do you want this to be assigned to? When Singat was talking, he talked about us not add coding names, right? So let's assume that you're using, let's assume that you're not using a form, okay, and you're using Power Apps. You would have put the person that you want to approve it, and it comes, it comes as a dynamic content and it comes into your flow. But for this particular one, there's nowhere we are getting the person that ought to approve this particular request. You can basically add it to your form. If you've added it to your form, so let me just show you our form here. So we are using staff request form. This is it here. Show you what the form looks like. All right, so we are using a staff request form, and okay, 1 minute. So to just reduce the noise, let me use my headset. Okay. All right, so what we have here, we basically have the staff name, we have email, we have department, we have job title, we have request type. So it means that when you're filling this, you put in your name, you put in your email, you put in your department, and they are all compulsory fields. It means that anybody filling this must put in their name, they must put in their email, they must put in their department, they must put in their job title so that the approver will be able to know who is submitting the request. Put in their request type, put in the request reason. There's nowhere here that we are getting there's nowhere here that we're getting who it should be assigned to. All right, so we are going to add code this. So for this one, I'm just going to pick somebody in my tenant. So here I'm just going to ensure that I'm the one that will be approving, just for the sake of this demo. Let's just quickly show us. So I'm going to be putting my email address here. I'm just copying it to avoid any mistake. All right. So this is my email address. So you can basically put the email address of the person that you want to approve here. And you put details. So details is where it gets interesting. Details is where you'll be able to see all the so with these details, I'm going to explain what we mean by dynamic content to us. Okay. All right. So details will just have to say dear. So just say dear line manager. All right. So this is like, these details is like the body of an email. Okay. Then we'll put in all the details coming from the form. And I'm going to use this point to explain to us what dynamic contents are. So this is dynamic content. So let's assume that instead of typing and say, dear line manager, Omolola is requesting, or Mohammed is requesting for, say, a laptop, for instance, what I will just do is, dear line manager, the line manager, here is a new request awaiting your review. Below at the details. So you can customize this English to whatever suits you. They want to put in the request details. So these are dynamic content. So if I submit a request, Hiba submits a request, Mohammed submits a request. Dynamic content means that it is not static. So all the requests that each person is submitting is going to come with different values, right? All I just need to do, I will just put in staff name, okay? So here I will just say, so before I put in the staff name, I will say name, okay? So that the reviewer will know that the staff name that ought to be here. So anybody that fills the staff name, the name of the person that you fill into the form will automatically show here. So I'll say name. What other dynamic content do we have? We want to say request type. So request type. And we're going to see this in action. Every one of us here, we're going to fill this form, and I will show us what we have. So name, request type. If you're doing this with me, let me know if I'm too fast. Name, request type. So we'll just put in our request type in front of request type. You do the rest for the information that you want to show your the reviewer, the person approving. So name, request type. We want to show reasons also. Request description. Okay. We'll put that in as request reasons. Next thing we want to put the job title, just so that the person knows the title of the person requesting. We want to put job title and department. So here we say job title. Here's the job title. And here we'll say department. So I would say kindly kindly action on the above request. So this is just based on, remember that Power Automate works based on a particular process of an organization. So this is according to the process of this organization. And we're just spinning something up to just show us what Copilot can do. All right. So okay. So we are done with this one. You come here, you see everything that we've added. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to now work on our condition. So what do we have in the condition? So we want to say that if the outcome of this start and wait for approval is approved. So we go to the dynamic content again, and we'll look for outcome. So this is it, the outcome of the approval if is equals to approve. We're just doing something very simple. Okay. So if it's equals to approve, what do we want to do? We want to send a mail to the person that has made the request. So all right. So we can decide from the dynamic content here, we can decide to use the email here, right? But it's possible that the person maybe sent or has imputed an email that is maybe wrong, right? So we will just say to all right, so we'll use this email. Then the subject is request type approved. So this is one of the things that we can use Copilot for. And just stay with me. I'm going to still show us another thing that we can use Copilot for. All right. So this is request type approved. And in this body of the email, let's just write something simple. So we say hello staff name. That's from the form now. From this form, hello staff name. Your request has been approved. Okay. So we've made it that simple. You can decide to edit it. So this is if it is false. So let us assume that the responder or the approver has decided to maybe reject this. We can just come here and say to enter custom value to the staff name. The subject is approval request denied. So that's the subject of the email. Say, dear staff name, your request, just staff name, your. So we can try to, sympathize with the person. This is to inform you that your approval request has been denied, at this time. So let's try to sympathize a little. We are sorry to inform you
that your approval request has been denied at this time. Okay. So now we can go ahead and save our flow. And it's as simple as that. So let's assume that you want to add more flows to this. So let's wait for this to save. So if you're building a very, 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 very complex flow and you want to okay, so this has been saved. You're building a very complex flow and you just want you want Copilot to help you with it. You want to add something. Now, this is actually where you can talk to Copilot. So here it says, here is your flow. If you want me to change it, just say what you want. For example, you can say add an action that sends an email. So I can come here, right, and just tell Power Automate and say add an action that sends an email. Just for example. All right. Okay, so we can see it here. Copilot has decided to add another action to this. Add an action, we can see it send an action 4. It has added, look at what it says. So I said add an action that sends an email. So it said remove this action. So it removed send an email, right? And he added, let's see. So he removed this action. He updated stamp and wait for approval conditions, and he added send an email. Look at the emails. Look at the actions he added for us. So if you want to add any other thing, you can tell it, and it will add. If you undo, you can decide to undo. So you see, if you revert this, you say this will revert your flow to the state it was in before Copilot said it. So I want to revert it because I don't want to have to redo everything that we just finished doing. So I've reverted now. I can see what I have there before, but it's not exactly what I have, right? So I can quickly just do this again. So, but that's just to show us that Copilot can actually edit a previous flow for us, right? Okay. So I'm going to do this also again. Staff name. I'm just changing the dynamic content to what we had there before. So I've shown us that, you can create a new email, you can create a new flow, you can edit a flow just by telling Copilot what you want. You can save this flow from here or save it from here. Now I'm going to give us this form so that we can fill the form and we'll see that in action. But while I do that, this is the staff request form. Okay. Let's shorten the URL. Copy link. So I'm going to put it in our so I'm going to put it here now. Oh, okay. Somebody said Mohammed said, I think your voice was clearer without, oh. That now. And here I'm just going to put in, so this is the form, right? I want you to fill this form and let us see it in action. Let us see how Power Automates the flow that Copilot has helped us to generate. Let's see how it's going to work. Okay, so before that, I also want to show us something beautiful that personally is one of my best features in this Copilot. That's the part I love the most that Copilot does. So I've dropped the link, so you'll be able to see this form and you'll be able to fill it. Okay, but before that, I want to show us one beautiful thing that, so I've saved this. I want to show us one thing that Copilot can do for us. All right, so we don't have any flows here because remember that the trigger is when a form is filled. Okay, I see somebody raising their hand. So before we go to the, hold on, please, before I take questions, just give me a few more minutes. I want to show us one other thing that Copilot can do. So I'm going to go to the flows that I have before. I'm going to go to the flows that I have before. I'm just going to pick this particular university file. All right, I'm going to edit. Okay, so long that I'm using this new designer, I can just tell Power. So now, remember I told us that one of the things you can use Power Automate for is you can actually tell Power Automate that explain a flow to me. So you just go to this organization and they have so many flows built. You don't know what the flow is doing. You can say explain this flow to me. So that's what I'm going to just do. Explain this flow to me. Now, this is the explanation. So this is you just chatting inside of the Power Automate Studio. So it says this flow. So it's going to start explaining it from the trigger. I have a manual trigger here. And look at the explanation. This flow is triggered by an HTTP request. It retrieves the student ID, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and file name from the request queries. It then gets the content of a file from the request body. The flow creates a file in a SharePoint folder with the retrieved file name and content. Finally, it updates the student ID property. All right, so we were asking Power Automate Copilot to explain to us an existing flow, right? And so we said, please, can you explain this flow to us? And what it did was, it started explaining it from the trigger. So it says that the flow is triggered by an HTTP request, which is true. This is an HTTP request flow, triggered flow. And it says that it retrieves the student ID and file name from the request queries. It then gets the content of a file from the request body. So what this flow basically is doing is I have a flow that is retrieving, what it basically does is that once this flow is triggered, right, it's going to retrieve whatever has been sent, right, from an API. That's why it's a manually triggered flow. It retrieves everything that has been stored by an API. It's a flow for a university. Then what it does is it's going to get, if an attachment was used, right? If an attachment was added to that particular API that is being triggered, it's going to store it in a SharePoint folder. And that's what Power Automate is explaining to us here. So if you just get into an organization, you don't understand flows that are there, Power Automate can actually help you. It will help you to explain what this flow is doing. Then you can now open it and, understand yourself. Now, for this one now, what's it called? Expression, for people that have been building before. Expression is what has been used here. Expression is what has been used here. You might not understand what that particular expression is doing, but with this explaining it to you, you have an idea of what that flow is actually doing. So like I said, part of what I had explained to us during my slide, advantages of Copilot, it can build a new flow and it builds it faster. That's what we just did now. It can edit an existing flow. We looked at editing an existing flow. It can explain an existing flow to us. It just did that. It explained an existing flow to us. And it can also answer questions. So lastly, let's just quickly ask Power Automate some questions. So if you ask Power Automate a question about, let's assume that you ask Power Automate a question about something that is not related to Power Automate, to tell you that it's not related to Power Automate. So if I say, what is Copilot? Let's see what it will say. Okay, so this is it. You can ask it questions. So I said, I even made a mistake. I said, what is Copilot? But you understood it and it said, Copilot is an AI-powered code completion tool developed by OpenAI. It is designed to assist developers in writing code by providing suggestion and completing code snippets. Copilot uses machine learning algorithm trained on a vast amount of code from various. So basically, this is showing us that it answers question, right? If you ask it a question, within the Copilot context, within the Power Automate context, it will answer you. He edits a flow, he builds a flow, and that is all about Copilot in Power Automate. So, but if you're in Power Platform, there's Copilot also in Power Apps. There's Copilot in Power Automate. We have Copilot in a lot of Microsoft tools right now, and it's so beautiful. I'm encouraging us to actually start using Copilot, and it's really going to help us. So, do we have questions? If you have any questions, please just raise your hand. Let me take questions if we have the questions. Do we have any question?
Any question, guys?
Do we have any question? Are you saying something?
Any questions? I'm just saying many thanks, Umulula, for fantastic practical session. Your professional style in presenting the demo was amazing, and we are truly honored and delighted to have you with us today. Thanks once again for your valuable time and contribution. Any question, guys, for Umulula? Could you please share your social media contact to can reach out to you if anyone have any questions?
All right, so yeah, my LinkedIn, so I'm just going to drop my LinkedIn. It's Omolola Alfred, so I'm dropping it here, my name. Once you type it on LinkedIn, you'd see me. Omolola Alfred. All right, so if you have any questions about Copilot, I have a resource. Just give me a second. Let me share that resource with us. I have it already here. Okay. So this link is one sec. All right, so if you click on this link, it will answer all the questions that you have. If you have more questions, ask my name. You can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Omolola Alfred. Just type Omolola Alfred on LinkedIn. I'll answer all your questions. Thank you so much once again, all the organizers. And thank you, Hiba. Thank you for having me here. Bye.